my name is Farida, and I talk about living a life of ease through remote work and travel. If any of these things sound good to you, please like, comment, and subscribe. So today I'm going to be talking about the ultimate guide to WGU. I have worked at Western Governors University for a couple of years now, and it has been a wonderful experience. So about the company, it started in 1997 by a group of governors, and their goal was to expand access to education, especially for adult learners. So as of today, WGU has 4 schools. They have the School of Business, the School of Nursing, the School of IT, and the School of Education. And I have been blessed to work for the School of Education for a couple of years now. I was doing my thing. I was working as an adjunct professor for a couple of local universities, community colleges to be more precise in the area. And I was having a blast with adult education, but I wanted that freedom to work from home, to work around my timelines instead of the university or the community college's timelines. And I really wanted something that was steady income. As you know, being an adjunct, you take what you can get. And sometimes you don't get more than 1 or 2 classes a semester. So even though I really loved that, I was looking for something remote, something more steady, to supplement my other remote jobs that were more seasonal and more part-time. So I applied for WGU in 2022, and I got my first position as an evaluator. An evaluator is someone who looks at papers, projects, presentations, video submissions, resumes, just all types of different documents, letters, professional letters. And I worked for the School of Education evaluating papers. It was wonderful, and I had a blast doing that. And I was looking for something where I could be full-time because this position at the time was part-time. And I applied to be a program mentor. A program mentor is like an academic counselor, a best friend, a cheerleader, and someone that moves you along your program all rolled into one. So I really, really love that position. So that's what I'm doing today. This is a perfect position for Muslim women and Black women who want to kind of leave the rat race, but still have that sense of community, purpose, and enjoyment, and that steady income coming in. So WGU, they have a competency-based model, and what that means is what you know is valuable to WGU. So that's what makes it a great option. If you are a substitute teacher, if you are someone that's a teacher aide in the classroom, you've already got a wealth of knowledge. So WGU is set up where you can go in, you can show them what you know, and you can test out of courses. So that makes it super valuable to accelerate your progress through the program so that you can get that degree faster. Was actually introduced to WGU through my mother. My mom, back in, the early days of WGU. She is one of the pioneers. She definitely heard about WGU through a coworker or a colleague. She was working at a university in the School of Nursing, and they told her, just try out. It's really innovative. It's really cool. They have a different approach to learning. And she actually interviewed at an airport and got the job with WGU on the spot. So through her, I was able to tag along to some of her different get-togethers with WGU, gatherings, community building activities, and even setting up some nursing labs around the region that she worked. And I got to see her in action firsthand. And she would take turns. She would take me and then one of my brothers and then another brother and then another brother on these trips. And we really got to see her do her thing, as well as hang out at hotels and have fun and have that one-on-one bonding time with my mom. So it was really cool. As I was going through my education, I decided to go back to school and get my master's degree. My mom was a professor at the time, so I got a discount to go to school at WGU. It was just such a blessing. Automatically, I got a boost in my compensation, about 10 to 15K boost, and I moved up to become the English chair at that particular school. And I was able to leverage that education to move on to other schools where increasingly I got a salary compensation increase. Those compensation increases along the way really helped my career and helped me be able to get to where I wanted to go professionally and, savings wise for the budget. So that was a real blessing. And finally, after several years of doing that, working in K-12 education and then moving on to secondary education, I applied for WGU and got the job. So it has been a really wonderful ride, a great journey, and I'm so grateful to that. So let's move on. Let me check my notes. Let's talk about the jobs available at WGU. So first, you've got your faculty positions, which I was able to get. I became an evaluator, which is also faculty. Then I moved on to become a program mentor, which is definitely a more student-facing role, which is what I wanted. I wanted to talk and interact with new upcoming teachers and just share some of my experiences and hear their experiences. And it's been a lot more interactive than the evaluator role. Evaluator role is great if you really just want to do your job, make money, not talk to students, and have that freedom and flexibility to take your laptop anywhere and work. Evaluator role is the one for you. You don't have to worry about phone calls or weekly meetings. I believe I had a meeting every month as an evaluator. So if that's your only gig, it can be a little bit isolating, but if not, it's a perfect remote job to layer with another full-time job or, part-time job. So both of those positions they have their pros and cons. I like program mentoring better because as a program mentor, I get to have that colleague interaction, student interaction, and it just makes me feel like less lonely. I feel like, yes, I'm in my house, I'm in the comfort of my room or my living room, but I'm also getting that feedback and interaction and training and collaboration with other people. So moving on, they have professors. You need to have a PhD to be a course instructor or professor at WGU. So just keep that in mind. If you have the degree, you have the qualifications, go for it. Course instructors are, they are one of the major pieces to WGU success. They are available all the time for scheduling appointments, talking to students, helping them through their coursework, and pointing them in the right direction. So course instructors are awesome. We have academic coaches. Academic coaches are another great piece to the puzzle. If the course instructor's guidance is, you know, wonderful, but you need additional help, then you get that one-on-one coaching for your coursework. You know, these are mostly adults coming back after several years, you know, taking quantitative literacy, you know, math and, you know, physical science and all these courses that some people have last seen in 11th, 12th grade. So this is a real benefit to have that coaching. They have study hall, they have peer mentors. You know, they really have a great support system at WGU. So on the non-faculty side, they have course designers. I met a couple of them at our latest meetup, which was at, you know, Disney Resort. So it was really fun. Course designers, they're fabulous. They are fabulous. The amount of work and effort it goes into creating those courses, it's phenomenal. So those instructional designers, they are very, very highly valued at WGU. We also have IT roles, lots of IT issues, because this is an online university. So imagine all of the technical issues that come up with that come up for students as well as come up for faculty and staff. I had an IT issue the other day, and you know, I called the line and they told me step by step what to do to fix the issue, and boom, I was back to making phone calls and doing my job. So yes, IT, if you have a degree in IT or a certificate, definitely apply for WGU. And we also have human resources roles, so many different roles. Anything that you can imagine that's needed for an online program, and anything that you can imagine that's needed for a university, WGU is hiring for it. So those interviews are super competitive. Those positions are super competitive, but you know, it's possible, because I believe if I can do it, anybody can do it. So what is WGU looking for? They are looking for folks with a passion for learning. If you are the kind of person that can't take correction, can't modify yourself, feels like you know it all, WGU is not for you. They need people who are constantly wanting to improve, evolve, change, you know, because with WGU, it's such an innovative model that we are flying the plane as we build the plane. And that's the type of attitude that we take into what we do. You know, we do challenging things. Okay, what's next? Effective communication. You have to be able to know how to talk to people, your colleagues, your manager, and your students. You know, a condescending tone is not going to go over well with these adult learners. You're not their mother. You are there as, yes, a guide. You're there as a resource. You're there to help them, guide them through the program, whatever the program is. However, as a program mentor, you have to be able to communicate. So maybe think of other roles if you're not willing to communicate, such as an evaluator or IT roles, or, you know, non-student facing roles. But for most of the roles that, you know, I've seen within the company from the faculty side, they are student facing, and you need to be able to have effective communication. Also, you need to be self-motivated. Your manager is not going to tell you step by step unless they're super, you know, a super micromanager. They're not going to tell you step by step. At 9 a.m. you need to do this. Then at 9:30 do this. Then at 10 call here. Then at 10:30 go ahead and do some outreach. Then at 11:30, you know, take a break and eat lunch. No, it's not like that. You need to know how to set up your own schedule and be motivated to get all of your action items done. And you'll know through training what those action items are for your role. Next, you need to be able to collaborate with your peers. You need to be able to talk and express yourself and listen to ideas, bounce off of those ideas, and, accept when you've made a mistake. It's okay to make mistakes. We can fix them as long as we take accountability and know what those mistakes are. So, collaboration is basically how you learn more than the surface level for your role, because there will be so many different situations that hit you from day to day. One day you might be learning about certification in Washington. The next day you might be learning about changes to a standardized test in Florida. You never know what the issue will be, so you have to be constantly learning and collaborating with your peers, because your manager doesn't know it all. They don't know every single thing that's happening. Sometimes it'll be you that stumbles upon a new change or a new process, and you have to bring it to the group. You do have to have some basic tech skills. I don't think of myself as particularly tech savvy, but I do know how to run Microsoft Teams. I know how to do OneNote. I know how to run a WebEx meeting, Zoom. I know how to, use basic technology and online tools. So make sure that you know how to do that. You just really need to be a problem solver. Sometimes the team's not available. Sometimes your manager might not be available. So you need to know how to research information, search the knowledge center, search the websites, figure things out for students, and get back to them in a timely manner with an answer. Also, you need to be student obsessed, because these students, the only thing that makes it feel human, the only thing that makes it feel natural sometimes is you, if you have a student-facing position at WGU. Everything else is remote, online, simulations, just going through that course content, looking at screens a lot. So they're talking with you. You want to be obsessed with them. You want to know how their kid is feeling. You want to know how they're doing after that, school event that just happened at their school that left them traumatized. You want to comfort them after the death of a loved one, or a divorce or separation. You are the human on the phone. And a lot of times, if they don't feel like you know them as a person after a certain amount of time, they're not going to want to call. They're not going to want to keep in touch. They will ghost you. Definitely keep that student obsession first and foremost. So how do you interview for WGU? All right, so I probably interviewed with WGU over 20 times. I'm still interviewing for positions within WGU. I love the company. Great compensation, great work-life balance, great people who really care, but you can't know that unless you have a successful interview and you actually get the job. So the first thing I would say is know WGU's mission, know their core values, know what they have set out to do, how they got started. You don't have to be an expert, but just having that history with my mother and seeing how she was kind of a founder, it naturally wanted me to learn more about this online university. So having that background knowledge was very, very beneficial to not for nepotism's sake. It didn't help me because she worked at a totally different school within the university. She was on the nursing side and I'm on the education side. However, it does help to have those stories in an interview. Or if you don't have the stories, to have that knowledge. The interviewer knows that you're serious, you've done your research, and you're ready to go. The next one is to understand your key responsibilities. WGU, when they put out a job application, they will have those key responsibilities. Go through them. See in your mind how you fit those roles and be ready to go when the interviewer asks you, why do you think this is a good fit for you? Make sure you can hit at least 3 or 4 of those 10, 15 bullet points that they'll have on the job application. So know those key responsibilities, know what you'll be able to do, and kind of relate it to what you've done in the past. Next, they're going to always ask you a behavior question, and which is probably common for a lot of positions. So they'll ask, tell me about a time you had a problem with a coworker and how you overcame it. Or tell me about a time you had a very difficult student to reach and what were the things that you did to reach that student and help them be successful. Something behavioral where you're going to have to go back to the vault and think about something you did to solve a problem. So for that, you're going to want to use the situation, task, action, result method, or the STAR method. So think about the situation, have it ready to go in the chamber when they call, because you don't want to be in the Zoom meeting or whatever meeting they have set up for you going, let me think of a time. No, have the time ready. Maybe have 2 times. Have that situation ready to go in the chamber. Think about the task. Whether I used one back in the day where we had an accreditation visit to the school and I was one of the senior members on the team for accreditation, and how I created a presentation for the visitors, and we had interviews where they would ask me deep questions about the school, the pros, the cons, a site walk, and so forth. So have that task that you did ready to go. And then the A is action. What action did you take to solve that problem? If it was a difficult student, did you stay after school and do tutoring? Did you do a home visit? Did you make a connection? Did you have them as the star helper in the classroom? What action did you take to solve that problem? And then finally, what was the result? Did you pass that accreditation? Did you get the raise? Did you boost that student's grade by 10 percentage points? Did you solve that problem with a coworker and have a good, respectful working relationship? What was the result? So those are some things that you can keep in mind. Just keep in mind that STAR situation. What was the task? What was the action? What was the result? And you should do very well on those behavior questions. And then finally, just always talk about your passion. Whether you're going for an education role in faculty, whether you're going into the School of IT, business, or nursing, whether you're not doing a student-facing job, you are in IT or, course creation, whatever it is, show your passion for that role. Why do you do what you do? And it's always to serve. It's always about servant leadership. It's always to help. It's always to bring value. So once they see that value, you'll be a top contender, and hopefully you'll be, part of the WGU family and part of the WGU universe. So thank you so much for listening to this ultimate guide to WGU remote learning. For more remote content, please like, comment, and subscribe. I like to talk about these jobs that are always hiring, and, they are a great stepping stone to a position like the one I have now. And I love them. For more of that content, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day. Bye. I've had a lot of great adventures in my life. The trips that have touched my soul the most, the ones I've taken with my loved ones and closest friends. Now it's your turn. Join Sisters on the Lake for an unforgettable week of connection, reflection, and adventure.